how's my Rubric family today? Hope all of you are doing fine. And, we're like June 28th, 2020. And, like the weekend always brings the best interviews, the best content possible. And right now we have the honor, the pleasure to have a professional wrestling referee, radio host. He has his own show also, so he does it all. I have the pleasure to have from Hickson, Tennessee, Patrick Young. How you doing, Patrick?
Going on, brother? How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Pretty excited to have you. And we're going to be talking about, of course, the sport that we love, the stuff that we like to talk about, and that is professional wrestling. So, Patrick, before we start, I know you have a show tonight. So how do you feel? Yeah. How do you feel to be back? How do you feel about wrestling finally being back? We're getting our sport back. So how do you feel about that?
I'm excited. We do a little show in Summerville, Georgia. Right now, it's a little indie show, training kids and getting things up and going. And so it's nice, man. We're at 6,000 feet. And so in the state of Georgia, you can have, I think it's like 5 or 6 people per foot. So that way, if we separate the chairs out, then we're able to have somewhat of a decent show. So things are opening back up in wrestling. Things are, especially in the indie scene, not necessarily WWE because they've had to cancel tapings and stuff. But yeah, it's slowly getting back to the way it was.
That's awesome. And as long as people take the precautions, as long as they're careful, as long as they keep their distance, we can have a wrestling back because of course all of us have been missing that big time. And now that you're a referee, so walk me through how did the first exposure with wrestling came about? How did you fall in love with this sport?
So I'm from Chattanooga, Hickson, and that's where Terry Bam Bam Gordy from the Fabulous Freebirds is from. And so I was always having run-ins with him and seeing him. He was working out at the YMCA where I would go and hang out as a kid. And he was just always around. We'd have Smoky Mountain Wrestling come down, and he would end up being booked on that show, here in Chattanooga. And it was really cool, man. For me, Smoky Mountain Wrestling was a part of my childhood. It's a very close part of me. It's what got me into wrestling. So, I love Jim Cornette, and I ended up getting to work multiple matches with Jim Cornette. And so, yeah, he's a great guy. Smoky Mountain Wrestling is a very personal part of my history. But I do enjoy, world class. I'm a very old school type guy, and that's just me. I love the history of professional wrestling. I love the golden age of wrestling. I love the 60s and 70s. So, yeah, no, Terry Gordy basically, walking up and meeting him numerous times, that's what got it going for me.
Oh, that's awesome. I know her daughter actually wrestles too, right, Miranda?
Yes,
I think.
Yes,
Miranda,
she does.
Yeah, she's a really good wrestler too. So that's really great to see that how the wrestling bug is still in the family. So that's extremely great. So when you grew up watching it, did you have a personal favorite, from the Attitude Era or any era in particular? Or who will be your favorite wrestler from that time? You were growing up.
Ric Flair.
Nature Boy.
The way he carried himself, the way he was over the top, it just, from the NWA to WCW, you're a kid and you're watching Ric Flair drop elbows on a jacket in the middle of the ring. That just, for me, that stood out as holy shit, this is pretty cool. So.
Oh yeah, no, I love that.
No, Ric Flair was it, man. Yeah, Ric Flair was it for me, man.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, the Nature Boy, the stuff that he did outside of an actual fight, that was really great, and that's how you fell in love with the character.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you love professional wrestling, of course. So then, how did you decide to become a referee, though? How did that came about? Tell me the story.
Well, I knew from a very young age that it's what I wanted to do, and you can ask my parents, you can ask anybody. Here it is. I'm 6 and 7 years old, and I was like, "This is what I'm going to do." And no matter beat downs, a lot of people were like, "Oh, that's stupid. Don't do it. That's a waste of time." Just that kind of stuff. You always have to overcome that kind of setback from that are just putting you down. But no, it's knew then from a very young age, I was like, man, I've got to do this. And I've done some wrestling. It always stood out for me, a lot of the older guys, Earl Hebner, uh, referee Tommy Young from NWA. That just stood out for me, and I knew then I kind of liked that third man mentality in the ring, because there you could tell so much that a referee added to a match that people didn't realize. And you start breaking down a match and you start seeing that. And so the psychology part of it, it just stood out to me as referee type mentality. And so I broke into the business around 16, 17 years old, and I just showed up basically. There wasn't a lot of training or anything like that. It's just like, hey, he's here, here's a shirt, go in there and do your thing. And so my very first match, I'm in jeans and tennis shoes and a referee shirt. So that was my first night into wrestling.
Were you scared, or like, and for example, did you know what to do? Meaning, for example, like, did you know how like the finish was and stuff like that, or you just learning the fly?
No, I knew the finish. They would give me, and then you have a couple of the old school guys that taught me really quickly, don't pull your three. And that's the biggest thing, when I'm training young kids nowadays. Don't pull that three. If they don't kick out, that's their problem. That's not our problem. And so that's a major part. And so you would have those older guys. It's like, nah, we got this. Don't worry about it. You just count and we'll go from there. And so, yeah, there was a couple of finishes that were on the fly. And that helped train me as well, because, they would get into it a little too much, and I'd have to call for a DQ, or I'd have to call for, because you are in charge. You're the referee. You're in charge of the match. And so then when you have to call for that DQ or whatever, you get to the back, well, what the hell? And it's like, well, I had to do what I had to do. So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and I can see, like, you kind of develop your own personality as a referee, right? What do you like to be? Like, you just like neutral, or do you like to kind of like help out? You're a little heelish, or what? What's Patrick Young's like personality as a ref?
I love to work kind of on the heelish side of it, because that's the thing about a referee. A referee works heel without being a heel. In tag matches or whatever, you're, oh man, I didn't see him, do the false tag, or I didn't see him swap out, or hey, wait a minute now, I didn't see them, choking each other behind my back. And so, yeah, that's just really cool. You, as a referee, you're working heel without being a heel. And I thought that's awesome.
That's absolutely amazing. So like now, and so what would you say like has been like your toughest call? Like, work me through a match that you had like your toughest call.
I was involved in a match one time, and a young kid, he toe kicked a veteran right in the throat, and the veteran got a little overheated and got on top of him and just started just forearming him. I'm seeing this this teenage kid, his head is just bouncing back and forth, and then he just flat out choked him out. And because I don't know if he just blacked out or what, but the veteran, he got pretty, ticked off and just choked him out completely. And to where I had to pull him off of him and just be like, dude, okay, it's over. You got to, and it just went awry, basically. So.
Wow, yeah, like that's that's the kind of stuff you gotta react on the fly, right? And be like, okay,
Right.
Yeah, and you gotta show your personality. So I saw, for example, like, see, you had to referee Tommy Dreamer and Stevie Richards. So that was pretty cool. How did that feel for you?
Yeah, it was awesome. I'll send you the link later on to the match. It was great. I enjoyed that as as the teenager side of me. ECW stood out, and so that was a dream come true, to be a part of a match, especially with two legendary wrestlers like that. And then I've gone on to become really close with Tommy Dreamer, who's working for DDP Yoga, and he's just 2 hours down the road from me. Stevie Richards, my bad. Sorry, Stevie Richards, who's just, he's working for DDP Yoga, and he's 2 hours down the road from me. And, and Dreamer's doing House of Hardcore. And so I'm always, in talks with hopefully being, sometime in the near future. But, it's doors have opened up to me that, I've been very fortunate thus far to be a part of. And it was great for me as a teenager to be living that dream.
Oh yeah, like I would really think that like it's such a dream come true to, like, for example, you're gonna be refereeing these two guys that you probably watch on TV. So I was like, okay, like it's like you kind of like it hits home when you're like, okay, it's probably doing something right, and that's the kind of stuff. For example, what is your dream match? Something that you would like to like referee. If you could pick two guys, it's like, hey, I would love to be the referee for this match.
If it's anybody in today's mentality, I would love to be a part of seeing a Nick Aldis NWA title match. I think that would be because for me, the NWA is the end all be all. Like I said, I was born Southern wrestling, so NWA, we were NWA household, and that's just it for me, And it doesn't have to be Nick Aldis, but right now I think he's carrying that title with the utmost respect, a lot more than anybody else has since Ric Flair.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. And you have that title right behind you, the NWA. Yeah. I will I'll say that like it's a NWA is like pretty like they keep like their essence. It's like the old school mentality. Like the legitimacy of the product, all of that. So yeah, it's a pretty cool. It's a pretty cool company. Like, is that a dream of you to maybe work in there at some point?
Yeah, I've had some conversations with them, and doing hopefully some tryouts, and hopefully be me on WA TV at some point in time. See it's going again. It's kind of down for right now due to the COVID stuff and all that, but I would love to do that. I would love to work with AEW. Right now, I feel like AEW is owning the wrestling business. I think Vince McMahon and WWE is really, they weren't expecting it to be such a hit. And right now, TNT Wednesday nights, that's where it's at.
No, Dynamite, yeah. And what do you think, for example, like Audrey Edwards, being like a woman in the referee world? Do you think that that's like is important, right? It's just like
right, yeah.
It's changing the business for the good though, because there's a new group of like female like referees that like starting to be showcasing like important matches now.
Yes, and there was, you had WWE kind of break into that mentality, but she never was advanced to the main roster. She was NXT and that was it. But Audrey has stepped up to the role. She's doing the podcast with Tony Schiavone every week, and she stepped up to that role and carried that mentality of a Earl Hebner or a Tommy Young or something like that you can put her on a microphone or you can put her in front of a camera to be able to be a part of a controversial call or something along those lines that most referees you can't do. They can't sell that the way in which Audrey could, I could, Earl Hebner could, Tommy Young could, things like that.
No, yeah, you're right. You could also say Neil Patrick, like they all like Charles Robinson. I will say a little bit, but like nowadays, we don't even know the names in WWE of the referees. Back then, we knew. For example, we knew Timothy White, we knew when Teddy Long, we knew Jimmy Corderas, we knew Mike Chioda, we knew all of them because, like you said, like especially Earl Hebner, he became like a character. Because every time he'll get, like, the wrestlers will get in his face, he'll push them. So, like, do you think that, like, that is lacking on the new generation of referees? Or is something that, they need to, like, really get in track on that?
I think the problem with it is, Vince doesn't want people to take away from what referees, don't take away from my superstars, per se, which I hate. I'm a wrestler. I am in the business as a wrestler. Don't call me a superstar or sports entertainer, because that's just not me. I'm very, like I said over and over again, I'm very old school. So as a referee, he doesn't want people to be able to see that, oh, well, this person's standing out. You're not going to have any more Earl Hebners in WWE, I'm afraid, because of that fact. And so it kind of sucks, but I think that they're doing better with, AEW's kind of getting into that role. You're seeing some of it in the NWA. You're seeing it in the indie scene. And like me, you know, for instance, people want a referee that you can throw on a microphone and be like, hey, I made that call because here's why.
And see, that's important. That's absolutely important because we need referees with a lot of character. And that's, I think, what we're really lacking of. But, like, see, walk me through, like, for example, you started in the business. So, like, what kind of advice did you get, for example, from Jim Cornette? And, you know, we will just ask, like, pretty broad like that. Like, how is he? Is he, like, a good guy, a bad guy? You know, what is he what they really picture to him? Or what was the influence from, like, Jim Cornette in you?
Jim is a great guy. He's very open to try to help young talent, contrary to what some people may believe. He's very open to the future of wrestling. He wants to make sure that if and when there's a time that he is no longer involved, that there is a future of carrying on the legacy of the history, because he's a very big historian like myself. I mean, he's got a collection of stuff that will blow any wrestling mind, you know, of a fan. And so, no, he just gives me, you know, hey, you're doing good. What if you correct this a little bit? Hey, you know, you did great, but you might need to be a little bit more over the top. And, but yeah, other than that, you know, just tweaks, small tweaks, nothing, you know, too major, or at least hasn't for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. And see, because you did OVW, you were able to be part of that, and you said Smoky Mountain Wrestling. So, what wrestlers were you able to work with before they were famous during that time? Because you pretty much set up the stage for a lot of guys that like went like pretty much then TV and then became popular.
Yeah, I worked with a lot of the upcoming talent. I've been a part of some, you know, just a lot of the Impact people. You know, I've been able to work with Johnny Swinger before he jumped back on the Impact scene. I was able to work with some of the, you know, Kira Hogan.
Kira Hogan is amazing. She's awesome. She's awesome.
She is. She's fantastic. And I've worked hundreds of her matches and been a part of the future on her, you know, her side of it. And so, yeah, no, there's a list too much to name, but she definitely stands out for me as the fact of what she's accomplished in such a short period of time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I even said in one of the reviews, because as you know, we do the reviews of a lot of shows, and we did Impact. I said that Kira Hogan is pretty much like even like a heelish version of Sasha Banks, but she's extremely great in the ring also. Yeah. But I love the attitude. I love like the character that she portrays. Yeah. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. She has great future. Right. You know, she reminds me a little bit of Amber Moon, but you know, even better. Yeah. Even better. So that's great that like you were able to, you know, help these guys. It's probably you feel really good that like you see them on TV and like, okay, see, I knew that this guy was going to be good, and I'm pretty sure for you it will happen for you soon too. So like again, talking about now goals, what will be your goal? Like your main, let's say, you know, they give you like a contract, 3 same contracts, WWE, AEW, and NWA. Which one will you pick right away?
Right out of the gate, it would be a toss-up between AEW and NWA. I just feel like they're the future, and the history behind the NWA alone carries weight with me. But AEW, they're, you know, like I said, they're number one right now, and they're doing new and improved stuff that I feel as being the major future part of the history of wrestling going forward.
Yeah, it's absolutely. So we can actually see you on AEW. We see you, then you know we're gonna pop. That's our guy right there. It's gonna be great to see you there. I hope it happens for you soon. But like, so you say you're kind of a historian, and we ask this to every single one of the people that has been working in the business. What do you think is the effect of kayfabe nowadays in wrestling? Because if, for example, your background is like old school. So do you think that like now superstars being more open, coming out with like outside of the gimmick, is it helping the business? Or in your own words, what's the current state of the business?
I think it hurts. I think it hurts the business a lot. And, you know, a lot of people disagree with that. But for me personally, I think I'm very kayfabe. If I'm, involved as a heel manager or something like that, I'm not coming out of that locker room until every single person has left the building. Or I'm not going to be, out there beforehand shaking hands and kissing babies, oh, this is great or whatever. If you're a heel, you're a heel. And MJF, I think, is carrying that forward, they had to issue a statement because of the fact, you do an autograph signing, you're getting the character. You're not getting the person. And so for him to be, taking a picture with a 7-year-old and the father and he's flipping them off, I think that's great. Kayfabe is you're getting the character. When I go and meet The Undertaker, which I've had a privilege of being, I don't want to meet Mark Callis. I want to meet The Undertaker. I don't want to meet Hulk Hogan as,
Terry Bollea.
I want to meet Hulk Hogan. And Ric Flair lives his character, so that's Ric Flair all the way around. But yeah, I want to meet those guys. I want to be that. If I meet Triple H, I want to meet Triple H. I don't want to, meet, the other side of him, the personal side of him. As a fan, going forward, now when you're in the business, it's different. When you're in the locker room hanging out with the boys, it's a lot different. But for me, going forward as a fan of it, fans are really losing that opportunity to understand what kayfabe truly means.
Yeah, I will say the new generation of fans don't understand that. When for example you and me were younger, for example, to me The Undertaker was just The Undertaker. I didn't even know that he had a real name.
Yeah.
For me, the name of the guy was The
Right.
Undertaker. I thought that he lived in Death Valley, and that's where he was. Because that's for me, that's the thing that made me fall in love with wrestling. So talking about that, then
Mark Calloway. Yeah, like Mark Calloway, like I was saying, you don't want to meet Mark Calloway when you go and do an autograph. You want to meet The Undertaker. You want to meet the Dead Man.
Yes.
And when I got to meet him, he was doing the build up for WrestleMania 20, and he came to have a car show that comes in town. It's called the World of Wheels, and they usually bring in somebody. They brought in Sable, they brought in Mick Foley, things like that. But he came one year, and the line was through the door. Just everybody wanted to meet him, and I was at the head of the line, and so I could hear this thing around time for a Royal Rumble, building up for his return in WrestleMania 20, and I'm seeing him, and he's still doing the biker thing, but it was cool because he gave me, he told me, he's like, hey, because I was like, oh, hope the Rumble, whatever, because I was 16, 17, something like that. And he goes, oh, but you're going to see the Dead Man soon. And so that was kind of a little open door, just kind of a glimpse in. That was really cool for me, as you're not giving things away, but you're making it personal with the fans. And that's a great mentality.
Oh yeah, no, imagine, well, see, for example, now that we're talking about The Undertaker, I'm going to ask you as a radio host, what are your thoughts about The Undertaker finally retiring? Are you sad? Are you, a part of your childhood is gone? Or, how do you feel about that?
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't believe it one bit, because I think Vince is going to get to the point that he's like, okay, AEW is really owning me. I need something major. I think we're going to get, we're going to start seeing, the Shawn Michaels in the ring one more time, or The Undertaker in the ring. I think Vince is going to start pulling out all the stops. We're going to see a Hulk Hogan match again. Even in his, 60s or 70s, I think we're going to see a Hulk Hogan match again, because Vince needs to bring that back to get viewership right now, or my opinion anyway, because he's not carrying the load right now that he needs to be carrying to compete.
Yes, it is true. It is true. We were saying in the show that I think we're going to see The Undertaker one more time at least, because, for example, I want to ask your opinion on this. He needs to retire with crowd. He needs the crowd to give him the farewell, one last time. He needs to leave, with everybody clapping and everybody on their feet.
And I'm not saying that he needs to go in and do a 5-star match. Go in, hit an old school, hit a tombstone, maybe a choke slam, and the place is going to go crazy, and he's back in the locker room 5 minutes later. I understand after watching the documentary WWE's put out, I understand the mentality because every person has it no matter what the age is. You can ask, Ric Flair, you can ask anybody. You want to give the absolute very best that you can. But you don't have to. When you have reached the mentality of Dusty Rhodes or Ric Flair or Hulk Hogan or an Undertaker, you don't have to. You hit if you're Hogan, you hit a big boot, a leg drop, you throw it out there for the fans to go crazy, and that's all they want. That's all they really care about seeing.
It is true. It is true. You don't need to have the greatest match in the car anymore. You just need to, like I said, we share the same views on that because all I said is like they need chokeslam, tombstone, everybody will be fine, and then we can all go home happy. Let's talk about this now. How did you become a radio host? How did like the Retro Wrestling podcast started for you? What made you start your own podcast?
So my brother comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, you know what? And he's a big, he works for a radio station here in town. He's big into, he went to college for radio, the whole 9 yards. And so he comes to me, he's like, man, I really think we should do this, kind of hop on board with this. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And he pitched the idea even to the radio station. So we're allowed to use, a studio there at the radio station, which is really cool. And we've now been going, I think, like 6 or 7 years. So it's become totally that it was his brainchild. I'm the celebrity type. I go in there, I give my opinion. We go over an old school, pay-per-view. I talk the business current, what's going on within that week. And he's the one that, he's the behind-the-scenes guy. He's part of it, but he's the one doing the editing and the final cuts. He's the one putting out the final product. He's all the way around. He's the backbone of it, not necessarily me because it gets way above me. We were trying to set up for this, and it took me almost 45 minutes to try to figure it out. I'm just not a technical person. I don't know the technical the way social media and stuff has moved forward. I've had to have him show me, and which is surprising for a 30-year-old, but that's just, I was not, it was never something I was interested in. I was more hands-on and it was sports. And so, yeah, I never was a computer literate type of person.
Okay. Yeah, but for example, when is that on? And you guys have interviews also. You talk about the current product. So when is that on every single week?
So we're recording on a Saturday or a Sunday. It gets edited and it's put out by around Tuesday or Wednesday. And you can click on it. We go through SoundCloud. We go through so many others. We've built our own website to where people can actually look us up. And it's usually about a 2-day turnaround. And we're unfiltered. We're I guess you can call us the Howard Stern of it, because I'm not afraid to throw an F-bomb out there. I'm not afraid to call people out on their shit. Brock Lesnar, when the whole controversy of him, he got popped for steroids like that in, UFC, but yet WWE's letting him work. Don't give me that shit. You say you have a drug policy, well, you're not standing behind it. And I called him out on it. And I'm not afraid to call a spade or call anybody, on their bullshit. I've probably burned some bridges by doing that, but at the same time, I'd rather have my own respect of giving my personal view on it than walking the line of, oh, well, he's going to say the same shit everybody else says.
Well, and I mean, that's important too. We need honesty in this world. So, that's why I see Road Break is always open. We're unfiltered. Yeah. This is what we do. Everybody's allowed to say whatever they want, and for example, in the light of that, Patrick, I'm going to ask you your thoughts. Now that you open Pandora's box, let's do it. The Speak Up movement. What are your thoughts on this? You know, how is like people like are you supporting the the movement? What's going on here?
I absolutely support it. I think that um, it's something that needs to have happened a long time ago. I think, when you're in that locker room, I don't care what your gender is, male, female, whatever. If you're working that show, everybody demands and deserves the absolute most respect. I'm not walking up to, one of the guys and pulling that kind of crap. So just because they're female, you shouldn't be pulling it either.
It's true. Absolutely. I'm not going to ask you any names. I'm not going to ask you for any of that. But, like, have you witnessed anything of those things or no?
You witness stuff like that. You witness somebody smacking somebody's ass or something like that, or and it's some people will call them out on it, and then some guys like, oh well, it's whatever. But at the end of the day, it's there's no placement. There's no need for it.
It is true. It's true. Do you think that, like again, as a radio host and as a referee, because I guess you're completely involved in the business, is this going to affect the business more, or is actually going to benefit the business?
I think it's going to affect. I think it's going to show. It's another step forward in what women's wrestling has become. I mean, think back. You just had a couple years ago women main event WrestleMania.
Yes.
Which is a huge thing that I think it was a great part. It was groundbreaking, and so I think, it's going to benefit. I think it's going to help quite a bit.
Yeah, and it's important like that finally women are receiving the respect that they need, because we're like you said, we're going through like bros and panties matches, and that's pretty much how like the perception of women was. And now every single company, even in the independent scene, we had the pleasure to interview a lot of great figures like Lexi Gomez, Ronnie Flores. Like they are the ones that like are being the next generation where like they focus on wrestling and not on how they look or what do they do and stuff like that. Is now how they perceive as wrestling.
See, you can be an attractive female wrestler. You can be Penelope Ford, or you can be Sasha Banks, or you can be someone along those lines that's a very attractive woman, but can still go in there and kick ass. And
exactly.
So there's no part. You don't have to be a Nicole Bass. God rest her soul. I'm not meaning that in a negative light, but you don't have to be that. Muscle build, nobody finds attractive type mentality, because you can be a very attractive woman, but also be able to, kick ass and take names and carry the brunt of the show just as much as, everybody. I think, women should be close to the main event, if not the main event, on a lot of shows right now, because they're carrying the matches. They're putting on, it's kind of like I feel like WCW. I love the luchadors. I love seeing those guys from Mexico, Psychosis, La Parca, Rey Mysterio. You would tune in, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho. You would tune in to WCW back in the day. And you're seeing Hogan and them Savage, whatever. But they're carrying the matches. They're putting on 5-star classics every single Monday night. And I feel like that's what the women are doing now. They're putting on 5-star classic matches. And you got Randy Orton hitting an RKO or something like that later on in the show. But, women are far succeeding right now, match quality that men ever could dream to have.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I feel that like there's a lot of like Io Shirai is absolutely amazing, and in Impact we have Jordan Grace, we have even Virtuosa, Deonna Purrazzo. Like there's so many people like Bayley, Sasha, Charlotte, that they just like give us a reason to keep watching. It's not like you said many times for me. It's not even for the looks. It's just because they put great wrestling, and the emotion is right there for the girls. So, that was an evolution for me, because remember, like, how the bathroom break was always the women's match. But now it's actually, no, let's stay and watch. So that's really good. And it's cool to hear from, like, a perspective from, like, the referee, from somebody that is in the business.
I've been in the ring with Tessa Blanchard numerous times, and she is legitimately the future of wrestling. She genuinely is a true badass, and she is kayfabe. And so I feel like, yeah, she's definitely going to carry the load into the next, decade of women's wrestling.
Okay, and see, like in the spirit of Tessa Blanchard, where do you think she's gonna go, Patrick? AEW or WWE?
AEW.
AEW. You think with Tully being there, she's gonna go there?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, because like, see, why I just put a picture in one of our sites that lists a Tessa against Charlotte and their dads on their corner. So that would be really cool, though, to see as a WrestleMania match, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, four horsemen style mentality. Everybody's on an even playing field.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, yeah, it's pretty intense. So we'll see what happens, though. But like, it's cool to actually you got to referee for Tessa, because like I think that she's a great wrestler. And outside of that, I don't know anything about her. You know what I mean? And let's talk about you a little bit. Like, how are you like outside of wrestling? What else do you like? Do you have any hobbies? You say you like sports? Like, what do you follow?
I love fishing. I love going and relaxing, sitting out there on the lake fishing. I love to. I'll break out the video games every now and then type mentality, but for me, my mind is always going about wrestling. What can we do here? What can we go there? What can, I love being a part of, our show, NGWA, North Georgia Wrestling Alliance. And we're always carrying the load. What can I do with this person? What can I do with that person? This guy's wanting to get trained. Do I feel like he has, the desire and the drive to really want to be in the business? And so my mind is always working with wrestling. And even when I'm sitting there fishing or whatever, my mind back is, and that's, I live, eat, breathe professional wrestling. I love the sport. I love everything about it. I love the history about it. And that's, I do consider myself a wrestling historian. I love going back to the golden age of wrestling and seeing what it was and what it became. Good,
Patrick. I really think that like you're the whole 9 yards when it comes to wrestling. So you do honor one of the guys that like probably was mentoring you. That's Jim Cornette, because like I can see like a younger version of Jim Cornette in you. Historian, cares about the business that much, like cares about the future of the business and leaving a legacy for the future generations, so they can actually enjoy wrestling as much as we did. So that's, yeah. I mean, that's pretty plausible. And like for people like you, there are people like me that fell in love of the business, fell in love of this, and then they wanted like this to continue for generations to come. So like before we let you go, plug in or your social media, anybody that you want to say hi to, any shout outs, anything, the floor is yours. And go ahead. Any shows that you have upcoming that you're going to be, please tell everybody in the audience, where they can buy tickets and how are they going to be, selling all of that for like the new shows. All of it, the floor is yours.
North Georgia Wrestling Alliance, I am very proud to be a part of. It is our future, I think, in the state of Georgia with wrestling. I enjoy, you can find me on Twitter at Ref Patrick Young. You can find me on Facebook at Patrick Young or Patrick Young Wrestling. It'll pop right up with me and Steve Richards and Tommy Dreamer. You can definitely find me on Retro Wrestling Podcast. We definitely, like I said, we're doing a show every week. So you can definitely follow us on Retro Wrestling Podcast on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter. You can find our website. We're always available to ask any, if you want to ask a question, I will answer it or I will find out what the answer is. I'm very open with my fans and I'm very available to do one-on-one conversations, whatever they want. I'm willing to go over and above what the fans need. I love to give out the history and give out somewhat of the
that's amazing. That's great. And to see like anytime, like I said, like we will have all the information for Patrick in the description. So you guys please, after we see after you guys are done watching the interview, please, click, 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 give it some clicks, and I subscribe to all the social media, because right here is the future also professional wrestling. I cannot wait to see you on AEW. I cannot wait to see you in NWA. I don't know your thoughts on WWE, so we're going to wait on that. But, like, anything else you want to say before we let you go?
No, I just want to thank all the fans. Go out and check out the history of professional wrestling. I think that's a big part of going forward, because you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've come from.
Exactly.
And I want to thank you for letting me be on here. I hope we definitely get together again. I would love to be a part of this, and I think that what you're doing is groundbreaking on YouTube. I enjoy that very much. Video interviews are a major part, because now that you're in the interview era, I think being uncut, unfiltered, I enjoy that, as well. You've got high spots, and you're starting to compete with that very well. And so congratulations on you. I definitely would love to be part of this again, and maybe us be able to do some more business in the future.
Well, thank you so much. Like I said, once you're here in the Road Break family, you become a family for life. So anytime you want to be part of it, for a pay-per-view, for anything, you're more than welcome to be here. It's been such a pleasure to have you. We wish you the best. And like I said, I'm going to pop for you the day that I can finally see you on AEW or NWA, because we do cover every single thing of professional wrestling. We love it. We want to keep the business, because for us, it is what we breathe and what we eat every single day. So, Patrick, thank you so very much again. And like I said, best of luck on your show tonight. Also, enjoy it. And again, take the precautions so everybody's safe, because, unfortunately, we have to deal with a new way of living right now. But, for you family, don't forget to, follow Patrick in all the social media. It's going to be annotated in the description. And for us, remember, we have the original Road Break on Facebook. We have also the original Road Break on Instagram, the OG Road Break on Twitter, and, of course, for the meat and potatoes and wonderful interviews like this young gentleman right here. It's right here on the original Road Break on YouTube. So, in the name of Patrick and myself, we want to wish you the best for this upcoming week. And also, we want to say, Ada.